guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Christina and this is Creations by Christy, and welcome back to another part of our Mystery Make series, the series where we let the spinning wheel choose which one of my sewing or Pinterest pins will be what we work on this week. So how are you? I hope you're doing well. I'm doing okay. Finishing up summer here. It's already starting to feel very fall-ish for mid-August. Kind of weird, won't lie. But school is going back and everything around us, so just enjoying this time of year. But let's go ahead and see what we are going to be working on this week. So a sewing project finally. I feel like it's been forever since we got to work on a sewing project. So that's nice. One of the only things though is this purse is a like a picture tutorial only. So there's actually no written pattern. So I wouldn't really consider this something beginner, just because of that alone. You have to just be able to kind of go with the pictures and just kind of go from there. But we're going to give it a whirl. We're going to see if we can get it to work out right and just kind of use context clues to see if we can make sure that we're going to build it correctly. But let's get turned around. Let's get some fabric picked out this week. And I counted it's 22 squares. So I'll probably pick 4 and then a lining fabric as well, because you have to line it. So let's get turned around and pick something. So I will tell you, like, one of the biggest setbacks of having so much fabric, and unfortunately this isn't even all of it, is picking out of it. Excuse me. Because, you know, I love all of them, but I only need 4. So this is also kind of a fun pattern because it's going to use 4-inch squares. Okay. We're going to grab that. Since we're kind of going vintage with that one, we'll try that. And maybe that. Ooh, how about we'll try that. I need one more for the outside. Don't mind the dogs. I need one more for the outside. Let's see. Maybe go back with like a blue. That's like a really thin blue. What about this one? Wait, didn't I already pull this? No, I didn't. Do that. And then we need a lining. I don't want a lining that like totally matches what I've already pulled. I've pulled very vintagey blues and pinks. What about this as a lining? Let's put them together and see. Hold on. Okay. So these four for my outside squares. And then that for the lining. I think that'll work. Let's get to cutting them. Okay, so we're gonna hope that my camera doesn't move. I ended up picking a 5th color. I went ahead and grabbed that one back. So that we're gonna do 5 of each. And then 2 of this one, or this one. No, this one. We'll do 2 of this one, 5 of these. And yeah, there we go. So let's get cutting. Like I said originally, this pattern, after going through the pictures, is using a 4-inch square. So that is what we will use. Ooh, nice, fresh rotary blade. If anyone knows where I can get rotary blades at, cheap, that is not preferably like Temu or Alibaba, please leave it in the comments down below, because I can always use rotary blades. And the Fisker branded blades that you get at like Walmart and places like that, they get pricey. So if you know of a place, preferably, like I said, not an Alibaba or a place, Temu, places like that, I just try to do my best not to shop at places like that if it is at all avoidable, and so far I've been lucky and it's always been avoidable. So there's my PSA for the day. Before I start sewing all this together, I will go ahead and go back in and iron my pieces. right, there is all of our squares. I had a couple that I cut out when I was cutting them, and I will just throw them into my like scrap quilt bin. And it's literally just how it sounds. It's just when I have scraps like that, I use 4-inch and they'll go into that bin. These will go into my other scrap bin because they are big enough to be something, and then that's all I have for the trash. So let's get these ironed so we can get them laid out in place. All right, we're all pressed. So now it's time to figure out how we want to lay the bag out. So I don't know if we're gonna have like a pattern per se, but let's go ahead and see if we can figure something out. That's cute. Okay, there we go. We were lucky enough to even end up with a pattern. Let's get this over to the sewing machine and get this put together. So as we already see, using a picture tutorial can get iffy with a lot of things. It's a lot of interpretation for, you know, what you're seeing. So I'm gonna get the initial squares put together like I was showing you in that pattern, and then I'm going to take that piece and go lay it on top of my lining and cut my lining out from there, and then put them together. The strap on it, it looks like they just did almost like a tubed strap that they then ironed and then just top stitched for it to hold its shape. I'm debating if I want to do something like that. I'm going to see how I get through this part and then kind of do the debate on how I want to, on how I want to do the strap for it. And if I want to put any type of closure to it too. I have some like old school magnetic purse closures. If anything, I might use one of those. If anything, I might just leave it open. Very like hobo bag style. So yeah, let's get these sewn together. purse. There is our bag. So let's get it with the liner. We'll get the liner laid out and cut. I think I'm going to use the liner fabric as well for my strap. But the strap part, I'm still trying to fully figure out. I am just rough cutting right now, just so I can get all this like bulk out of the way. It'll just make it easier. There we go. There we go. And grab a chalk. So I'm currently doing 1/4 inch seam allowances when I'm sewing everything together. And I will stick with that when I sew the lining to the outside. I will just stick with a 1/4 inch just to keep everything pretty cohesive. And it also helps if you're looking at this and you're like, wow, you're not being real precise. I'm not. I'm getting close to the edge, but I will do a 1/4 inch off of the actual like top. And then I can cut excess off and trim it up before I turn it the right side. So there we go. The plan is once I get the lining cut, because like I said, this is just a picture tutorial. There is no actual instructions on how you should put this bag together. So you're really just going off your own baseline knowledge. So what I will end up doing, how I think it's going to go best, let's put it that way. And I could be completely wrong and regret my decision. But I think how this is going to piece best is I'm going to sew like sides together and leave a section open, like one of these sections probably, to turn it the right way. And then turn it inside out, or turn it right sides out, and kind of go from there on best way to do from there. Especially just because, like I said, I still have to add a handle at some point. When I'm sewing bags, I prefer to sew the handle into a seam, just for strength and durability, and not just have it like be independent. With that being cut now, I'm going to go ahead, flip over right side. Go right sides together. Go right sides together, and then go ahead and start working around pinning it. One thing I do want to kind of look at before I sew these together is, so this pattern has you coming up like this. You would sew down this side and then sew these together, okay? That's how the pattern forms. But that is only leaving an opening like barely big enough for your hand. So I'm kind of wondering if let's look. If I cut these in half, and then just sew here, bring the edge of the bag down, I think that would work. Because you know what I'm going to do here? Because then this whole top would be open. So if I just sewed here, and then did the fold, that would have this whole top be open. I like that. I think that's what we're going to do. And you know what? If I messed up, the worst is I'll have to redo these. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to sew across. Yeah, I'm going to sew across and down. And, how I was doing it. And I will just I'll leave this end open. This whole part open. So I will sew from here. I'm going to go ahead and sew around the whole thing just to kind of give it that so that I can play with it some. I'll go ahead and sew around the whole thing. I'll sew straight across here. So that if I realize that's not going to work, all I have to do is rip those stitches. Yeah, let me run this over to the sewing machine and we will see how it did. So I got everything turned. I got my edges cleaned up, all the pretty stuff, everything's done. This is what we're looking like. Now I just need to sew here and here, and then here and here, and then I will fold and sew like this part to this part to this part. I have that done. This is going to be my strap. Took a piece of the lining and then I did it just bias tape style, and then I'm just going to top stitch on both sides, and I'm just going to do a single just diagonal strap. So I'll stick it in. I'll probably just take a couple seams out here, stick it in on this side, and then over to this way and just do a diagonal across. Almost done. Get these last few in, and then I'll show you guys what we end up with. Okay, drum roll please. There it is. I do like not having the top points. I just think if we would have left them on there, it would have been a very tight fit to get your hand in there. And this way it's all open. I did just a diagonal handle on it. I will say if I was to redo it, I would probably do 2 shorter handles and instead of just one long one. A couple things, like I do love how it turned out. It is super cute. I think I'm just going to use it as like a project bag. Because it's got that big opening and it's easy to carry, I'm not going to put a closure on it. Because of that, then, you know, I have the ability to just throw skein of yarn in there or whatever. The colors ended up turning out really good together. Just a nice little bag, you know. I mean, a couple things. You know, we know it was a picture tutorial. There was not a stitch of any type of instruction. There wasn't even like a materials list or anything like that. So it kind of was going by the seat of my pants with this one. I'm happy with how it turned out. But things that if I were to make it again, things that I would change, I would use an interfacing. It's the first thing to give it a little more structure. And then I would probably look at just how my squares are laid out, because for this one, the bottom is a point. It's not flat for how it folded up, which could have been I somehow missed a row, very possibly. Or it's just how it was laid out and just the pictures didn't really show that. Because this, with how I sewed it together, like I said, totally could have been wrong too. So don't quote me. I managed to give it like a point. But once again, I'm going to use it for a project bag. So having that point actually makes I can't really show you. It makes it kind of flatten out more on the bottom, which will be nice for a project. So as always, I will link the pattern down below if you want to try to take just my advice and test it out. Maybe, you know, use an interfacing, leave the points on, see if maybe just how I folded it wasn't going to look right. But I will make sure I leave a pattern for this down below. And as always, if you've made it this far, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. And please like and subscribe if you haven't already. It really helps the channel. And I guess with that being said, once again, thank you. I will see you next week, and we will see what we are making next week. Thanks, guys. Bye.